Next, we're going to take a look at implementers. Implementers are simply statements or questions that make the person picture in their mind how they would actually buy or how they would actually do your ask. It leverages the psychological principle of implementation intention, which says that if the person visualizes in their mind how to actually do something or buy something, they're much more likely to do it because they already know how to do it. It's the reason why we have test drives. Let's take a look at this principle.
To clarify, we start with the psychological principle underneath implementers, which is the principle of implementation intention. If you ask somebody how to do something, they will be much more likely to do it than simply asking if they will do it or not. There was a persuasion study done with voting. There were two different groups. In one group, they just asked people whether they would vote, yes or no. But for the other group, they asked them how they would do it. What road would you take on your way to vote? What time of day would you go there? What pen would you use? And lo and behold, the people that were asked how to do it actually turned out to vote much more frequently. The underlying effect is simple. If you can get a person to picture how it is to buy something or to adopt it, they will be much more likely to do it. They get a sense of ownership, they're more familiar with it. At the end of the day, they just know how to do it. And knowing how to do it makes it a lot easier for them to do it. Implementers are actually very famous. Nobody just bothered to name them. If you've ever heard a question like, what would it take to do this? Or the quote-unquote Dan Sullivan question made famous by internet marketer Frank Kern, 5 years from now, what would need to happen in order for you to feel satisfied? Any question of this type gets you to think about how to actually do something and increases the chance you'll do it. This is used by many expert negotiators and salesmen. Grant Cardone asks questions like, how can we be one of your top suppliers? Dan Locke as well with his famous, how can we do business today question. And Chris Voss of the Black Swan Group in particular has the most elegant implementation, which he calls calibrated questions, which are a subset of implementers, which are questions starting with what or how to achieve this purpose. How can we do this? What do you need from me? So how do you use an implementer? It's very simple. Simply use a statement or ask a question that is related to the details of implementing. Such as, for example, John, tell me how we can make this happen. What would it take for us to do business today? Many others can be used. How can we make this happen? Tell me what you need from me. Tell me how we can make sure this gets done, and so many others. It just has to make the person visualize the details of implementing this. The interesting thing here is that better than using one, you can stack multiple implementers to detect lies and separate truly committed people from the rest. When a person is lying or not committed, they'll freeze when you use an implementer on them because they have no intention of, implementing it. You get the deer in the headlights effect. In some cases, they may be able to avoid one implementer with a fake answer, but they can't avoid multiple in a row. So what expert negotiators such as Grant Cardone does with his Inquisition or Chris Voss with his Rule of Three is to use multiple implementers in a row and gauge the person's reaction. Tell me how we can make this happen this quarter. Tell me how we can become one of these suppliers. How can we make sure we don't lose this opportunity? One interesting aspect to take into account as well is that implementation can also be used in a written form, in a manual, for example. If you think a question will make you illustrate something in your mind, wait until you read a manual. For example, real estate agents create moving-in manuals for clients for this very reason. The manuals are not to be given in the end when you're actually moving. This seems like the primary purpose, but it isn't. The primary purpose is to give them to clients that haven't been closed yet, because then they will illustrate in their mind how it is to move the implementation, and they are more likely to hire the agent for a service. Other examples include a new product manual for a product that you haven't bought yet, reports, and other documents. The principle is the same. It's getting you to illustrate how it is to buy or to adopt something before you do it so that you're more likely to do it later because you already know how to do it. Let's take a look at some do's and don'ts when using implementers. Do's. Do and block situation when there is a clear no or a polarized opinion. Implementers are great for creating options. How can we make this happen? How can we get this done? Don'ts. Don't get in your own way. When you drop a good implementer, shut up and let the other side reply. Speaking more after the implementer just makes them forget the question or takes emphasis off of it.
So as we just saw, implementers are very powerful tools and very versatile as well. You can use them not only to make the person illustrate in their mind how to buy, how to adopt, how to select your value proposition, but also for other purposes that we've explored in the past, such as creating options, creating space, but also even answering objections. They're a very useful tool.